to the Honest Property Podcast with your hosts, Becky and Ruth. And on today's podcast, we have Emma, who is from Oaks Hill Property and also your spiritual reader, isn't it? Your spiritual reader. So we've had a progression. This episode has been in the making because we did try and film it before.
Yeah, full transparency. We did try and film it and then the universe said no.
But we all are in agreement that this was for a greater reason and that this episode is going to reveal Emma's transformation that happened really quickly between when we were last together in person.
2 months.
Only 2 months?
2 months.
That's not even very long.
So I thought it was like a year.
Literally, so like when we originally was going to film this podcast, it was like months and months ago, and then things kept happening that we couldn't do it, and then eventually we landed on August. We met up in August, didn't we? And then we did it, and the recording didn't work. So now 2 months later, here we are. But 2 months ago, I didn't have that Your Spiritual Reader business.
Isn't that crazy that how everything develops so quickly, but it actually feels like at least 6 months ago?
Crazy.
It literally does. I think it's because it was summer as well, and now it definitely doesn't feel like summer. That was a lifetime ago. But yeah, we met Emma online, and she was another property investor who we completely just
Related with. Yeah.
Do you want to introduce yourself, Emma?
Okay. My name's Emma, and I am one half of Oaks Hill Property, which is a business that I own with my partner, who is my partner in business and in life.
Yeah, so Emma's account appeared, and we were like, oh my gosh, this is the first Instagram account that we've seen where somebody values experiences
Over stuff. Yeah,
Really?
which is So like the property world can show a lot of like the glamorized version. There's nothing wrong with it if that's like what you love and you aspire to have, like the flashy cars and things, but it wasn't something that we could relate with people in the property world because we cared a lot more about experiences. And then we found Emma's page and we were like, she's like us.
Yeah, we were like, we have the same values, and that's just not like, we never really saw that at all. And you were so into travel and adventure and the camper van, and you were talking about the things we were talking about online. We're like, she's so cool. Yeah, and inevitably we ended up meeting up in real life. But do you want to take it back to where your property journey began and
how it started?
How you even got there?
Yeah. And I think it's important to take it right back to the beginning because, like you say, on social media, it can be so flashy. And you see people doing really well and you're like, oh, wow, this is happened really quickly for them. What's going on? And then you get into the comparison cycle and it can all go a bit negative. So I think it's really important to strip back to where people have actually come from, because what you're seeing is just like the very, very later steps, really. It's almost like a momentum building thing, isn't it? It's like the chain reaction, and you're just seeing like the bits later that's come to actually accumulate to something. But it's so important to go right back. So if I go back to mine and Jamie's family, even Jamie comes from a family of investors. So his mum and dad, between them, had their own property portfolio of buy-to-lets, and they'd achieved this by they'd done their own residential house up, made some cash that way, and then they kept refinancing on it as they added value to it, and then they were able to buy some buy-to-lets. Since then, Jamie's mum has then branched out and done a BRR HMO and a couple of flips. And then Jamie's got an uncle that's got a buy-to-let, his cousin got a buy-to-let, and then he's got his aunt and uncle who have a portfolio of BRR SAs in Wales. And they've done a really stunning barn conversion, actually, that I really want to stay in. It looks amazing. You girls would love it. It's just like in this field, it's beautiful. Be perfect for one of your walks, actually. So next step, Wales. So in Jamie's family, it was always kind of, he was always heading in that direction, if you know what I mean. It was kind of a no-brainer for him. He always knew that he was going to get into property. He'd seen how it benefited his his family. He grew up having some nice holidays, and like his dad had race cars and stuff like that. So he saw the benefits of property. Not to say that his mum and dad, you know, they didn't come from money. They worked really hard for what they had. And there was a time in their life where before they had their property portfolio, where they were really struggling with money. And they had to pay out for a lot of hospital bills. So that kind of, I think, inspired them as well into property. So that's kind of where Jamie came from in the property space. And then for me, my family was totally different. My mum and dad grew up on a council estate. My dad's parents were both from Ireland. They came over from Ireland, tried to find a home and a job. My mum's parents, my nan is English, but my granddad was from Pakistan. So during the 60s, you can imagine it was a bit of a battle in terms of racism and things for my mum growing up.
God, yeah.
So they came from a very different world. They didn't have money. They weren't able to go to university or anything like that. It was very much, you know, you went to work and that was it. You got a job. But both my mum and dad tried to kind of break their kind of family cycle, really, because neither of their parents ever owned a property. So they themselves went to work, they saved up money, and they managed to both buy their own properties, which in itself was an amazing achievement, to be honest, for them and their backgrounds. Then from there, they then sold their properties, they bought one together. And then they actually, my mum was really into interior design and all that kind of, she was very good at DIY and stuff. My dad is not practical in the slightest. So they would kind of do up the properties a little bit, and they made a bit of money on it. They sold it, and they kind of did it that way until they got to a point where they could afford a house that, you know, was for them a kind of dream house. They bought this 4-bed detached house, which would have just been unheard of for their family. But they were in a position where, although they could afford it when they got the mortgage, it was a struggle every month for them to be able to afford this house. And they were going to work and they were really stressed. And my mum actually ended up having a brain hemorrhage, and she ended up in hospital for a few months. She recovered from the brain hemorrhage, but at that point, obviously, they'd lost an income. And my dad wasn't able to, you know, he had to work to afford the mortgage, but he also needed to look after my mum and also had to look after us. I was at uni at the time, but my brothers were both in high school, so they were really young. My grandparents did a great job of coming over and helping us, but it was a struggle for them to be able to do that. So I sort of saw, obviously, that struggle. And then they ended up selling that house because it just was too much of it. It just ended up taking a bit of a toll, really. So they downsized and bought something that, again, needed a bit of work, and did it up, and it was a bit more affordable for them. And then what happened was 10 years later, my mum went to work one day and she had another brain hemorrhage and she actually died at work.
Oh my God.
So that was really difficult, obviously. But from that, my dad then had made a profit on the house. He sold the house and now he's able to live mortgage free. But it's all gone from a very difficult struggle, basically, from a place of struggle. So from that, what I realised was I don't want to be in a place of struggle. I want to be in a place where I've got options, like Jamie's family had from their property investments. And I don't want to have to be at work and be stressed in my job if I don't need to be. And one of my biggest kind of motivators for me was the fact that when my mum died, I wasn't able to be contacted because my phone was locked in a cupboard at school, and I was actually in a meeting that day, and I shouldn't have actually been in that meeting. I should have been at home because I worked a certain amount of hours for contact hours, and I worked too many as a nursery teacher because I was the only nursery teacher. So technically I should have had, in the morning, it was meant to be my PPA time as teachers get. And in the afternoon, it was meant to be my non-contact time. I was meant to go home. But there was a meeting for this child who needed a healthcare plan. And I really wanted him to get his healthcare plan because it had been ongoing for ages. So I actually stayed in my own time to do this meeting, and my phone was locked in a cupboard and I wasn't reachable. So my brother ended up at the hospital first, and then me and my dad arrived later. But that's one of my things where I'm just like, I want to be in a position where I'm not having to be at work and not contactable when my family need me, or I don't want to end up dying at work stressed.
Because your background is in teaching, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's kind of where it all came from, really. So both Jamie and I have suffered a lot of grief in our life so far. We're only in our 30s and we've lost a lot of important people close to us. Last year we lost Jamie's cousin who helped us with our refurb. He was only 24.
So young.
In an accident. So again, it's just one of those things where it's like, life is really too short. You just don't know what's going to happen.
And I think people take that sort of thing for granted, that we live forever, and so we don't use our time, the one precious life that we do have. We make excuses not to live the life that we choose and as is controlled by other people, because we think we've got infinite amount of time. And something where you've gone through so much grief at such a young age really allows you to really think.
It makes you so much more aware ongoing, doesn't it? Like, from even though it was such a horrendous thing to have happened, you are able to look at life with such a clearer lens compared to a lot of people who haven't endured that. And it shines through in the way you approach everything, and it's amazing. Like, Emma's energy when she comes in a room is just like, you can't help but feel it radiate.
No, it's like this light, this aura is like glowing.
Why lady?
I mean, she's actually glowing through the screen right now. She's lovely and tanned.
Like, you're so smart. Like, with your we're gonna get late soon, I'm sure. But your energy is just, it comes across very clear that you have a clear vision for how you want your life to be. You're very focused as well. So when you started investing yourself, how did you begin your own property investing journey? So Jamie's family had the knowledge. So that was the knowledge. If correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like Jamie's family had the knowledge and abundance of being able to call someone if you needed help. And your family had a drive, like a work drive, and together that seems to have created what you two have made now. Yeah. So how did you get started with your property journey?
So, so like you say, it's the things that you need really are knowledge, which we had a lot from Jamie's family, but we did a couple of property courses as well. You need your community, and we had that with Jamie's family. You need the drive, a very strong why, which we had from our life experiences that we had. And then I think you just need to actually take action and do it. So what we did was, for our first residential property that we bought, we knew we wanted to buy something together. Jamie was adamant that we were going to buy a fixer-upper. I at first was a bit like, I don't know, like, I work very hard as it is. I kind of just want to like come home and chill. Like, I work like 10 to 12 hour days at school. Like, I just want to sit down. But Jamie was, but obviously Jamie had explained everything to me. I'd seen what his family had achieved. And then when I thought about everything that had happened to me, and then my mum, actually, when she died, my mum had many jobs in her lifetime, but when she died, she was an estate agent, and she was always saying to me, Emma, get into property. So that kind of was in the back of my head as well. So we bought something that we knew that we could make money on, basically. It was in a really lovely area. It was for a good price because it needed a lot of work. We also negotiated to get the price down as well. So we managed to get it. I think it was about like 40,000 below market value in the end.
Wow.
And it was a probate property, but it had already gone through probate. And because we were first time buyers and we didn't have a chain, we were also able to use that to our advantage as well. So we bought that in our personal names, which had many benefits. First of all, the fact that when we did sell it, we didn't have to pay capital gains tax.
Yeah.
Also, because we were first time buyers, we had the reduced stamp duty fee as well. So that was good. And when you do buy in a limited company, as you girls know, that you do get charged for things all the time. They just add like an extra charge on stuff, like surcharge for stamp duty.
That's what I was going to say, that everyone's circumstances are so different. We always say just because a lot of the time online is pushed to buy in a limited company might not necessarily suit your circumstances, or if there's a way to buy in your personal name and have a limited company, or you for the reasons of being able to sell. A lot of people buy in a limited company because they're not looking to sell. Whereas when it's in your personal name, you get those benefits like you've just said. And I think it's really getting the right advice on what's going to, with your long-term goals, instead of just copying the trend.
Absolutely. And like you say, when you're portfolio building, it makes sense to buy a limited company. But at the time, we knew we were doing this as a flip. So it made sense to do it in our own names. So we bought this property. We did a lot of work to it. It had a huge balcony, which we converted into a bedroom, a major bedroom bigger. We moved one bathroom from one side of the house to the other side of the house. We turned a cupboard into an ensuite. We knocked walls down to make it open plan living. It didn't have any central heating. It had warm air vents originally because it hadn't been touched since 1969 when it was built. The same people had lived in it the whole time. They bought it for £5,000.
Wow.
We bought it for 410. So that shows you that property goes up over time. If you want any more proof, look no further. So we did everything to it. You know, replastered, replumbed, rewired, new kitchen, new bathrooms, everything. And Jamie basically did most of the work, and
That's
then I helped.
Useful.
Yeah.
So what a cost saver. If you know how to do some of it. Ruth and I have also done what we could, and if you think of a day rate, if you can do it, do it. Obviously, don't get yourself into something that you're not confident in or is dangerous or you need qualifications.
Yeah, plumbing or electrics. Yeah, with plumbing and electrics, if you don't know what you're doing, 100% outsource that. But things like painting, like
ripping up the carpet, it's easy. Yeah.
And you can save money by ripping up the carpet yourself. Like that's something that you
I think it's like 200 quid. Just put it up.
Yeah, I did it for this property I'm in now actually, and it was really fun ripping it up.
Yeah,
it's pretty therapeutic.
Stress relief.
It's quite therapeutic, so do it.
Yeah.
So anyway, we did it. Yeah, so we did it basically all ourselves. Where Jamie's cousin is an electrician, so he did the electrics for us, so we paid for that. So where there were people that we needed, we could use, because Jamie has such an amazing network. Where he's a plumber himself and he's gas safe, and his cousin is an electrician. His dad's a builder and had his own building firm. He's a chippy by trade.
Had your built-in power team.
Yeah,
exactly. And then his other cousin was a painter and decorator. So we had all these people around us. So it was a no-brainer, really. So we did a lot of the work ourselves. It was a struggle because we were doing it whilst during COVID, where it was difficult to get materials. You then they then put a lot of money on the materials. I was working full time as a teacher, and during COVID, like, we didn't stop. We were still going in for the key workers and doing work online as well. So I was still working full time. Jamie had just left plumbing and set up his own business.
A lot of things going on.
To be a bit more flexible, and then COVID happened, so then no one wanted him in his house. So that was tricky. So he was trying to get work, but also whilst doing up the house. We ended up taking out a loan from John Lewis. Thank you, John Lewis. You provided a good rate, and we went through that pretty quickly. And then we were sort of doing it, so my income was paying for like the mortgage and the bills, and Jamie's income was paying for the refurb. And then we got a couple of credit cards as well. So it was, it was a struggle. Like we were doing it, but we knew that at some point it was going to pay off. So that's why we just kept going. And eventually we finished 3 years later. We finished this refurb and we sold it for 620,000.
Wow.
We bought it for 410. So
it was worth it in the end.
Yeah, we spent I think it was about 50-ish on the refurb, because obviously Jamie did so much himself, and we didn't pay for his labour. So yeah, in the end we walked away with, we landed in our bank account 250,000, but our actual profit was about 160,000. So
wow.
we were really happy with that.
Damn,
wow, that's so good.
So going from like the stress of like we've got to pay off this bill, we've got this credit card, and then all of a sudden like you get this money, you're like, okay, it was worth it.
I see why people do this.
I also want to highlight as well that, especially on social media, a lot of the time you're just seeing the highlights and things looking like it was so fast to turn around, but the reality is property is actually quite a slow process. But if you are patient enough, you have long-term gain, and I don't think that's highlighted enough in the industry, and it should be. So thank you for being really transparent about that.
Yeah, I think it's important. So so once we'd done that, we were like, okay, right, we can do this. We need to do this now. So we took so we decided that we were going to leave our stressful jobs, and we're still going to work but be more flexible with our working. So I was going to do supply teaching, and Jamie was just going to do, because he'd gone back to being employed as a plumber, but he was going to do more freelance plumbing, and it would just free us up, and then that meant that we could spend more time on the property business. So in order to do that, some of the cash that we'd made, we put aside for like half of our rent. So that way we didn't have to spend like all of our wages on our rent. We only needed to fund half of it.
Gave you a buffer.
It gave us a buffer. At the time, Jamie's van was broken, my car was broken, my phone was broken. Like we needed all new devices.
Always in one go.
So we were like, okay, we're just gonna buy Jamie a van because that will help with the business, and then it's done. We're gonna buy me a car. Like a lot of people would say, oh, don't use your cash to buy something outright, but it made sense for us because we were like, we're just gonna buy these vehicles and they're gonna last us now for a while. Like we're not gonna get a flashy car in a few years time.
A lot of people say, oh, some people are like, oh, you should lease your car, and I personally believe if you can buy it outright, then why wouldn't you?
I don't imagine were those cars brand new. If they were brand new, then
no.
Thing is, that's your working.
No, but they weren't old.
It's a commercial vehicle. Yeah.
If it's like second hand, or this is like the bread and butter of your business in order to get it done, and you're saving costs because he's actually doing the work, but he does need a vehicle to get all the materials where they need to be, then that I don't think just because it's a vehicle doesn't like know what the end goal is, why you got that vehicle in the first place. It's not.
And he needs that van for our business, but also for his own plumbing business as well.
Yeah,
so that's kind of like you need that. And then my car, I think it was like a year old, but I know that I've had so many problems with cars before. I've always had old cars. So it was nice to have a car that I knew wasn't going to like work. It's not going to break. Do you know what I mean? So we could just have that. And then we bought ourselves new phones, new laptops, and we're like, right, okay, we're good now for a bit, you know? And then it just took that pressure off. And then we didn't have monthly outgoings, and we reduced all of our monthly outgoings so that we would be in a position where, okay, we're now able to live a bit more flexibly. So then I left my job, and I was just so happy to walk away from that because it was so stressful. And I was doing like 50 to 60 hours a week. So I left that and I reduced my hours, and now my hours are more like, you know, sort of around 40-ish. So I've got back like 20 hours a week, or more actually, because sometimes I don't work every day, depending on what's going on with property stuff and whatever. And then Jamie obviously got back a lot of time as well. And it just meant that now we're in a position where actually we can trek up to Derby where our latest project is, and if we need to go up there and do something with that, we can do it. So it just made more sense to us. And then from that, we then used the rest of the money to reinvest into our business. We started Oaks Hill Property. I think it's just been just over a year now. And from that, we bought another property, which was our first actual rental property. And we bought that in an area where we live. It was a 1-bed flat. We turned it into a 2-bed flat. For us, it was like a very easy, quick compared to what we'd done before. So we were like, this is easy. Just move some things around. We did that in a few months, and then that's now rented out to a lovely tenant. She's a doctor. She's so lovely.
Is that flat a leasehold or a freehold?
It's a leasehold. This one's leasehold.
And you self-managed, didn't you?
I self-managed that one, because it's 10 minutes away from me, and it's honestly.
How do you find self-managing?
Well, as we've said before, girls, with buy-to-lets, I feel like it's just easier, isn't it? Buy-to-lets, just compared to the other strategies. If you're going to self-manage one, a buy-to-let is manageable to do, and Jamie's mum and dad have managed all of their buy-to-lets.
Yeah, you know what? Since the last time we spoke, we are self-managing one now, and it's very easy, easy.
Yeah, we're reconsidering our approach, maybe.
And I've got a really good relationship with the tenant, and I just did a tenant inspection actually at the weekend, and it's all there's no real drama. There's hardly been any dramas really at all with that flat. I think there was one leak above from another flat, and I just charged them for the new bathroom light that we needed. I invoiced them and they paid.
That's
no
so good.
big deal at all. So I think when we get to a point where, say, if we have quite a few and we're living our nomad lifestyle where we're around in our camper van, I might think about getting a management company then. But I think for now, because we've only got the one and I'm so close by and I've got the time, I think why give that money to an agency where we're building our business at the moment? Does that make sense? So then we refinanced off of that one, and we ended up we actually used some investor money to buy that one as well. So in this time we've actually raised finance as well. We've now raised just under 500,000 in finance now as well.
Amazing. Do you mind sharing how you raised that? Who were your investors? Were they
close family friends? That's so good.
Friends and family.
You don't have to look far.
I know some people are a bit hesitant about it, but the trust is already there, and trust is so important. So obviously we've got contracts and things in place. It's all very, legal and everything. But it just makes sense. And actually, one of our first investors was Jamie's mum, and she's decided
because she knows the process.
Yeah, she knows. And so she believes. We didn't have to convince her because she's already an investor, so she understands it, and she saw what we did with the house, and we presented the deal to her, and she was like, "Yeah, makes sense."
Makes sense.
And since you can invest in property, is one of it's obviously there's always an element of risk, but compared to saying any new new business that is in any other industry, like bricks and mortar, generally most people acknowledge is a safe bet.
Thing is, even stocks and shares. We were recently talking to someone who was at a networking event, and she worked in the financial industry, and she was like, all of these numbers and it's a figure of imagination. It doesn't really exist. But the only thing that really it's a concept. That's what she said. But she was like, she comes from a family of generational wealth through commercial property, and she said bricks and mortar will always
tangible. It exists. You can actually
touch it.
Yeah. And there's so many ways that you can get paid with property as well. Like we said, the rent, the refinance, selling it, so many ways it goes up in value. So she invested in that one, and then when we refinanced, we gave her all her money back plus profit, and she used it to buy a car, so she was happy with that. and then she's reinvested for the next project, and then we've got a few other investors as well for the next one. So so that flat we managed to, in the end, when we refinanced, we worked out that we bought that flat for £12,000, which obviously is
bloody hell.
It's good. and it's worth 250,000.
That's so good.
And the rent it gives is 1,500, and then we profit, like after mortgage and service charge and all that business, we probably get around, I think it was like £475, something like that.
That's so good.
Which isn't bad, is it?
Yeah,
that is definitely a massive lifestyle. Like that can contribute to your lifestyle massively. And I think that's the thing with properties. You just accumulate. One property is not going to change your life in an instant. You need to have several of them and be patient and acquire lots of that.
It starts the process, doesn't it?
Exactly. Like property is not a get rich quick thing at all. And if that's what you're looking for, then is not an industry that you should go into.
No. Don't be fooled.
No. So with your investors, did you give them a fixed rate back every year? Is that how it works?
Yeah, so it's whatever they invest, they get a fixed rate of 10% back.
That's very good.
Yeah, but obviously I'm very transparent, and I explain that, obviously they have to pay tax on that. So whatever they get, they've got to understand that it's 20% off of that, because we withhold their tax, we pay HMRC, we fill out the necessary forms, and then we give them their receipt to prove that they've paid tax on it, because obviously that covers them.
Yeah.
Because that's something that sometimes people don't realise that they have to do that, and then they will get disappointed if they don't understand that process.
That's a really good point.
I think it's important, as someone that is working with investors, you do need to be transparent in that way and tell them exactly, this is what you will get. However, remember, it's also 20%, but obviously that depends on their situation. It might be more depending on how much they earn and stuff.
Yeah, that's a really, really important thing to raise, I think, especially if you're working with investors who say they're on their own payroll and they're not responsible for sorting out their own taxes. It's something to easily forget about.
Actually that's earned. That's like that interest is earned income.
Then maybe they don't
if they're investing in
investors. Property investors.
If they're investing in a company name, it's different, because they would pay their own tax. They have to declare that themselves. But if it's their personal names, then that's the process. But anyway, from there, so now we are officially landlords. And that flat is doing well. And like I say, I don't have many dramas really with that flat. It's a good one. There's actually another one in the same block, which I found direct to vendor, which I'm in chats with the seller at the moment. So I'm hoping to get that one as well. And then we've got our other project, which we found in Derby, which is a commercial to residential. So we've just finally submitted the planning for that one. This has been a very long process. This has taken ages. But I feel like we've learned so many lessons from this. And Jamie and I said, we haven't spent any of the investor money on this one yet. This has just been our own money that we've had, and it's been a few grand. We haven't actually bought the property yet, because we will buy it once we've got a contract that says we will buy it subject to getting the planning permission accepted. And I think that's important, because you don't want to be buying something and then you don't end up getting the planning permission, and then you're like, oh, what do I do with it? So we've got that in place. This one has taken a long time, but both Jamie and I said, you know what, if this doesn't work out, we have to walk away from it. We have put a lot of time and energy into it. But realistically, we've spent a couple of grand, and actually you would have spent that on a training course anyway. And the lessons that we've learned in this project has actually probably been a lot more than what we'd get in a training course. So actually, it's whatever happens, it's been worth it for us.
Definitely.
We've also lost where the vendor pulled out near the end of completion, and we lost thousands just on solicitor fees. But we look back and go, well, I had a mild heart attack. Because we were a lot younger as well, and I cannot breathe. But it was a big lesson of nothing is guaranteed until you have the keys in your hand, and that's like something to remember.
I think it makes us look like a bit Debbie Downers, because we're not excited about anything
until we got the keys.
I'm on a plane, I'm like, I'm not excited about being there until I'm there.
Jamie, he's like that, whereas I'm like, a few weeks before, I'm like,
yeah, I'm like, are we?
Like, I'm like manifesting it all. I'm like, oh, we're gonna do this and do that, and Jamie's like, I'll be happy when we get there. I'm like, but he's very much like that as well. He's like, when we've got the keys, then I'll be happy. But with this project, yeah, we viewed this one in February, and we're now in October, and now we're having to wait for the planning to be accepted, and it still might not be accepted, might not go through, and then it might end up failing. But like I said, we've learnt so much from it, so it's not,
that's invaluable.
Yeah, it's a great experience, and we're prepared to lose a couple of grand of our own money if it meant that we learn all these lessons, and if we if this could potentially take off and be a great project, which it can, so it's worth it for us.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, that's amazing. So you've made, was it 160k something? Is that how much
Yeah.
first one?
Yeah,
160,
profit, yeah.
then started doing the RRR from that, got a couple
Yeah.
of new cars, reduced work hours by 20 a week. Now you're all in on your own business, and now you're using other people's money to buy more properties for like 12,000 quid. And you're just on a roll now.
I don't know if they'll all be like that, but
you have the knowledge, and you know how to find deals that result in you not needing to put that much money down to have ownership, which is where the magic of property comes in. But you have to combine that with your knowledge, a good support group, and your drive. And I also now want to touch on, you talked about manifesting, and I said how Emma, when we first met Emma, it was like we'd always known her, and she just came bursting in the room with like a halo around her head. And I think,
oh, guys,
it's true. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in the presence of someone amazing. Because
you're embarrassing me.
No, but it's true. We felt like you were like a long lost sister. Like it really felt, we could feel that you have something special about you.
So I have no doubt when you're around negotiating with vendors that you are passing on these good vibes and this good energy to get you what you want. But so we met Emma, and then we did a podcast, had a great time.
We had a great day. But we had a great day.
And then we went out to eat, and
then Emma disclosed that she was like a magical human being, and we were like,
she comes from a line of spiritual healers, basically, and was about to heal us. We were having lunch, and Emma was like, "What's your birth time, and where?" wasn't it? And and then she did a personal human design reading for us, and it
just really randomly, didn't we, at lunch?
Ruth and I are the kind of people to be like, we are so all ears about this.
Yeah, because we're very spiritual. We've been raised very spiritual.
I think it's a juxtaposition, isn't it? Like property world can be like on paper,
quite
you have a spreadsheet, it's very logical, but reality of actually doing it, you have to embrace your feminine, because you have to go with the ebbs and flows of what life throws you. Nothing like, I've been reading a book, it's called Alchemy recently, and it was just like how basically says how logic is like not the answer, and it's the not nonsense, but like the nonsensical things in life that happen that are usually like the things you have to go with. And like when you said about how COVID happened and the cost of materials, and you just had to adapt, and that's so much, that is very much a feminine state of being. Piecing together investors tending to their humanity, like their human side, how can you help them nurture acts of service? That is a very feminine zone to tap into. And Emma's very so nurturing in a spiritual way. She basically is like, I understand, like you just feel like she knows who you are.
But when she read out human design, we were like, that's so spot on. But like deep down we knew, but then for someone to confirm what we always knew was like it just solidified just being able to move forward being completely true to ourselves. But Emma, could you please explain
what is human design first?
What? Yeah.
Some people might not know what that is.
Human design is based on quantum physics and astrology, and it's all about what the planets are doing at the time of your birth. So where the location of the planets are and the energy that they bring is the energy that your kind of soul brings to Earth and to your body when you are born. So that's why it's so important to know your date of birth, your time of birth, and your place of birth, because the energy is brought to that specific place at that time and that date. And it helps you to understand who you are as a person and who you came here to be. And it's almost like a bit of a roadmap for you on how to kind of navigate throughout life. It helps to tell you what your energy type is, your strategy, and your personality profile. There's so much to it. It's really detailed. And in fact, when I did the human design reading for you girls, I hadn't had training by that point. So I was just going off what I'd done, my own research and my own passion for it. But now I've done the training, I'm really looking forward actually to doing yours on Thursday.
Halloween. It's Halloween as well. So I was like, I booked it for Halloween because I was like,
everything's gonna be up in the air.
Yeah.
Jeez, yeah. I've got my black candles actually. I'm gonna get my black candles out that day. And good day for black candles. It releases all the negative energy. I would recommend.
Oh, I need to buy some now.
Anyway, so yeah, when I found out mine, I was the same as you girls. It gave me like some really massive reassurance and just kind of made everything made sense in my life, because I found out I was a manifester. And manifestors basically about 9% of the population. And we are here to initiate and impact, and we have quite big auras, which, like you said, like can be felt when someone walks in the room. And it can be, and I've got what's called a repelling aura. So it means that the people that are meant for me, I will attract. So some people will be attracted to my aura, but equally some people will be like, ooh, don't like her.
That's so interesting.
So I'm a bit like Marmite.
Yeah.
And my aura does that. And I've had that all my life, where I've had some people who have come into my life and, you know, it's all been good. And then other people have just been like, oh, you know, too much kind of thing. And it's hard, as one of the things as a manifestor, it's hard to take that personally. But I've realised actually that through human design, I now understand why that is. And it's almost like a natural filtering system for me to help me and to help them as well. And it's interesting because being in schools as well, as a manifestor in school, it's very structured. Your time is very defined, and it's very much that we're going to do this at this time, then we're doing this, then we're doing this, and you have to answer to SLT and all that thing. And as a manifestor, I'm not someone that works well with authority types. Let's just say. Yeah, I don't like to be told what to do. And so, like, I was always very good at my job. I was considered an outstanding teacher, but there were times where I didn't 100% always agree with SLT. And this is why, because of this. So it just makes so much sense. And it also makes sense why I want a more flexible routine for myself, because one of the things that I have as a manifestor, my energy type is I move either 110% or 0. I've literally, that's my 2 speeds. I'm either really, really fast.
So your cheese
I do a lot of things. Yeah, literally. I do a lot of things in a short space of time. And this might last a couple of days, a couple of hours, a couple of weeks. And then I'll go to a rest cycle where I need to just chill and be still. Whereas like some people are generators who have consistent energy, so they can just tap into it whenever they need to. Some people, like projectors, they should only really work a couple of hours a day. Their energy is so small but they're also the most efficient energy type. So they get everything done in a short space of time, and
they work smarter.
Exactly.
Not harder.
And we can learn a lot from them, actually. So this is kind of where it all fits in as well, because when I realized this, I was like, okay, well, this is why clearly like school hours don't work for me. This is why I burn out and get so tired, because this kind of way of working doesn't work for me. So I need to get to a position where I'm able to live my life by my own design, essentially, and make it flexible for me. And this is where property comes in, because it will help me to do that. But yeah, when I spoke to you girls, the idea was literally just, I was just passionate about human design. I had no idea that I was going to create this business. And then I went on this business retreat, which I won a ticket to from Athena. Shout out to Athena, at her Girls in Property networking event. And also shout out to Rebecca, who provided the ticket. Thank you, Rebecca. And I went on the retreat, and it just, yeah, they were, a lot of people there were quite spiritual, and it just ended up going into this. I thought I was going to be there for Oaks Hill Property, but all these kind of signs and things have been building up to the retreat. And then at the retreat, it was kind of like, oh, okay, this is what I need to do. So it's just mad how it happened.
It just
and
evolved.
Then,
I feel
as you
like
guys said, like, I've got family that are quite spiritual as well. Like, my dad's a Reiki healer and angel card reader. One of my nans hears spirit. The other one's clairvoyant and is a medium. So it was always there in my family, and I had my angel cards for years and been doing readings for years. But then human design, I just learnt about last year from my amazing friend Vicky. Shout out to Vicky, who you had on your podcast. Great episode. So yeah, again, like, it just kind of all built up and eventually led to this. And I didn't plan this. I thought that maybe this might be something that would come later, after I've got the portfolio of properties and after we're kind of financially more independent. But it's, for whatever reason, the universe is pulling it in now, so I'm gonna have to go with it, because you have to do what the universe says.
Isn't that life though? You just, like, things just get thrown in and you go, let's just deal with it, instead of trying to follow the structure of how the structure.
This is finished now. This has to start.
Yeah.
This is finished. Life doesn't go like that, is it? It's like,
no,
now the universe is saying to you, okay, you know what you're doing with properties. You can start something alongside.
Doesn't mean you can't start something else on the side.
Yeah.
Your property business is giving you that time freedom back to pursue what your heart really is meant for.
But we always say that property is the pillar to be able to pursue other businesses that really feel that soul.
And then you're really giving back to the world from
a place,
from your heart.
Yeah.
And a place that feels the most authentic, and you can actually give more because you're genuinely passionate about that thing. I'm so proud of you.
And I think that was the thing, like, with teaching, obviously, I was doing that thing where I was helping people, and that's very much part of my design. Actually, when I look at my design, I like to help people. I'm here to help others. So when I realized that I need to really get out of teaching because it's just not for me anymore, I thought, but there's going to be a void though, because I still need to help people in some way. That's just part of me. Yeah. So I didn't really know what to do, and I thought, oh well, I suppose maybe if I'm, because of property, maybe eventually I'll go down sort of property education side of things, because property teaching, works together. But then I just didn't get that kind of feeling from property. Property for us has always very much been a vehicle so that we can live our own lives. It wasn't, I don't want to end up being like a property trainer or anything like that. That just wasn't, it didn't feel for me, so I was like, what can I do? And then this just came in, and I was like, this is what the void is going to be. Like, this will fill the void. I mean, so it's actually ideal because it means that I can help people in a different way. And like human design has helped me to kind of find my spiritual path and kind of help me navigate the world, I can do that for other people. I can provide that reading for them. And with angel cards, I can give them messages that they need and of comfort that they need to receive. And I've done that since, and every time I give a reading, I always get such a buzz from it because they get a buzz from it, and it fuels me as well. So I feel like that's kind of that's where that void will be met for me. And everything in my design shows that this is what I will be doing. And it's really funny because when I was on holiday in August, I had a tarot card reading, and at that time I didn't have this business, and the tarot card reading said, well, you're gonna be successful in whatever you do, and I see 2 businesses for you, and this is a time of creativity for you where you can actually you can very much design your life and you choose what you want the business to be, because whatever it will be successful. And I was like, okay, so 2 businesses.
Whatever it will be. How reassuring. I love that.
Yeah.
And I totally believe it as well, because you're just so confident and peaceful in your energy.
Yeah. And you give, I think, especially in like a lot, there's going to be, well, we believe that there's going to be a lot more entrepreneurs, a lot of people starting small businesses. And especially like if you've been in business for a long time as well, I think the service that you're going to be providing, or being the spiritual reader, is going to give a lot of business owners permission to pivot if something's not working. And like not every, like life is linear, and so is business. And so you're gonna help so many people to give them that permission to understand themselves and where they want to go with their business. And if that means changing business or starting another business,
or just approaching it differently.
I think there's a lot of people now, like, who, especially from finding you girls, and I think you've created a lovely community of people through your podcast and your actual community, and also your Instagram page. But you're seeing a lot of people who actually don't want this kind of flashy lifestyle as a property investor. And it's okay if you do want that lifestyle, like, you know, each to their own. But some people, they actually just, you know, like me and Jamie, we want to get a camper van, like we want to travel the world, like for us it's all about like the freedom, the traveling. We don't necessarily want a luxury life, but we just want to be able to do what we want when we want, kind of thing. And it's lovely that you girls have kind of created this space where you're seeing a lot of people who want that now, and even people who have had the more flashy lifestyle have decided that wasn't for them, and now they're more thinking about they're living a bit more holistically. So it's really interesting to see.
I think it takes so I think we've seen definitely people who have, like you said, have lived a flashier lifestyle. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but kind of analyze and go, oh, is that
really what I wanted?
Actually, is that really what I wanted? And they just decide to cull that from their life, because it's like fame and fortune, isn't it? Depending on the person, does it make you happy? And to reflect if that really truly is what you want.
Yeah, 100%. And I think at some point, you know, you sort of go, I don't want things. I just want to have experiences and just be with the people that I want to be with, you know.
And what you're doing now is so fulfilling. I suppose in a school setting, it's sort of you're helping children become the incredible people they're going to become later, but it's in a very structured sort of, you're going to learn this today. There isn't that much room. Whereas what you're doing now is getting fulfillment in a way where you're like, you're just helping them understand who they are better. That's what I got personally. I was like, I got reconfirmation of what I'm like, or you've pointed out something that I didn't acknowledge yet about myself that I know to be true. And now I love that. Move forward and be like, this is how I need to process this. This is how I need to reflect. This is how I need to manage my engagement with other people and be real with myself in order to be my best, give my best to the world.
Yeah.
So fulfilling, and I'm just so pleased for you and can't wait to see what happens next. So if people are looking for a reading from Emma, where can they find you?
So I'm on Instagram as my username's a bit complicated. I might just get you girls to put it in the show notes.
Description.
It's like Emma._your spiritual. Something like that. But yeah, so but I'm called Emma, your spiritual reader, and that's where there's a link in my bio, and you can book a reading there and just check out the page so you get to explore more about human design. But I get such a lift from you know, giving readings to other people. But if I hadn't have started in property, I would never have got to this point, because I was, you know, a teacher, which was considered a well-paid job, considered a good job, considered, you know, you do that till you retire and you have your one income, and, you know, your tax is already done, and you get your net pay, and that's that. And I feel like I've just gone through this whole big transformation, whereas Jamie had already had a business, so he understood the business lifestyle, whereas I didn't understand that. I was very much just an employed person. And now I've gone from one income to 4 incomes by doing the supply teaching, the spiritual stuff, rent, and then like the money from the refinances as well. So it's really, property has really opened my eyes to a lot of things, and it just shows that it doesn't have to stop with property. Like you girls say, you can move further, and you girls have had a passion business as well. So it can get you to where you need to go to, and also I can help you with that if you need to, but by doing a reading. But I just think that thank you. But yeah, so it just shows that just by kind of just getting into this world, it can open many doors for you.
Yeah, definitely. And also that you don't have to settle for just one income stream. That you can have 100%. Multiple income streams and have a bit more control on where that comes from than relying on one wage.
And I know we girls talk, like we talked about before, how, you know, even if you're investing in property, it's still good to have a job or have another salary if you want to, just because it's that extra income. I think sometimes there's this almost like stigma against people who have their own property business, and you're like, you're not financially free, you're still in your job. Like, but some people want to have a job as well,
because they enjoy it.
And that's okay. Yeah, and that's okay. Like if it works for you, like if you're not stressed and if you enjoy it, and you know, it's just another salary, it's just another income, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think
we've said this before as well. I think when you go into property, we felt like, oh well, we'll have to only just do property, or find some way to be in property, which led us unfortunately into doing a shiny penny thing, which we've discussed many times anyway. But realized that wasn't the calling for us. We're very creative, and we've just switched that now. I think when you're in the property world, you feel like that's what success is like all you can do is like only do property, and that's just not the case. We are allowed to have multiple interests in many different things in life and not feel confined to a box of, just because I'm in this industry, this is all I can do.
100%. The whole point of you doing this, and it is hard work, and you know, you have to be a certain type of person to do it. So if the whole point of you doing this hard work is so that you can live your life how you want to live it, so you know, do what you feel called to do, and if that means other things, not just property, then do it.
Absolutely.
And you are a shining example. Thank you so much for being on round 2. I'll link if you want to find Emma, I'll put all her links below in the
and her property page as well. Oak Hill Properties.
And I think just full of inspiration from this podcast. I think we might even call it Emma's Evolution.
God, don't call it that.
Because it really has been. It's short time, but I think her manifestor energy shines through, and we could all benefit from a little bit of Emma's manifesting energy. Thank you so much, Emma.
Thank you, Emma.
I'm so grateful to you girls, though, because you girls helped to plant the seed that sprouted. You know, that day when I did your reading, you said, "Oh, you should be doing this, Emma," and I was like, "Oh, okay."
You were made for it.
And I'm grateful to you for creating this space as well, and thank you for having me on again.
Well, we've created it together, so I'm just thrilled that we're all disrupting the space of what it means to be a property investor.
Love that.
We'll speak soon. Thanks.
Forgot to say as well, if you would like to join our honest community, that we have, you can access that through our Instagram page. There is on our highlights, so you can just access it from there and join the group.
I'll pop it in the description below. So in a group chat, basically, with all 3 of us. If that's going to be part of the journey. So.
Bye, girls. Thank you.